Jason P. Johnson's cries for mercy were muffled out by the avalanche of tiny feet as he was repeatedly stomped to death by children. Satan sat there glued to the TV like it was the most interesting thing he'd ever seen. Satan? Yeah, buddy. You said children were pure souls, right? Of course. So, where did you get children in hell? That's a great question, Derek. Do you want to order pizza? Yeah, I guess, but you didn't answer. Great. Just put it on your credit card. Okay. You see the way little Lucy stomps on his face like that? She's great, isn't she? Which one is Lucy? They're all named Lucy, Derek. It's easier to keep track of them that way. What? I've got at least 7 kids with each wife, Derek. That's a lot of kids to keep track of. I can't go calling them by the wrong name all the time. It would affect their self-esteem. But naming them all Lucy was a stroke of genius. My first wife wanted to call them all Satan Jr. Can you imagine? What a hag. Satan turned up the TV as one of the kids picked up a rock and violently bashed Jason P. Johnson's skull in. I admit, said Satan, Lucy 47 is my favorite. I know. As a parent, you're supposed to love all your kids equally, but... There was a sickening crunch as Lucy 47 tore out Jason P. Johnston's spine and held it up to the camera. Her skin was almost pure white, and her eyes were solid black like a doll's. As I stared into those black eyes, I became aware of the sensation of air being sucked out of my lungs, and my whole body began to feel heavy. I could feel blood vessels starting to pop in my neck, and I strained to turn my head away, but I found that I could no longer move. All of a sudden, the air rushed back into my chest. Satan had plunged his hand into the TV, but instead of breaking, the glass began to ripple like water as he pulled a small, pale arm through. As he continued to pull, I saw the rest of Lucy 47 climb through the screen and into my living room. Satan grabbed a big pair of sunglasses and handed them to her. Here, put these on, honey, he said. The girl didn't say anything, and she just put on the sunglasses and stared at me. I was laying on the floor gasping for breath. Oh, come on, Brandon. You look like a trout over there. Come on, get up and let's go out. We've got people to kill. I managed to steady my breathing. So you don't want the pizza? Just order it. We'll bring it with us. You want to bring pizza to a murder? Technically, it's a sales pitch, Derek. There just happens to be a murder at the end of it. After we got the pizza, Satan had me sit up front so I could hold it open on my lap for him to eat and drive. Lucy sat in the back and stared out the window. Are you sure this is safe, Satan? I asked as we narrowly sped by another car. Don't worry about it, Donnie. The explosives in the trunk won't go off unless we crash. I gulped. There are explosives in the trunk? Are you serious? Of course, Donnie. Cars screeched to a halt around us as Satan ran a red light. How do you expect to blow people up without explosives? What? Who are we going to blow up? The sex traffickers, Donnie. All right, fine, but maybe we can be a little discreet this time? Let me think about it, Donnie. Satan paused for a moment. Nah. Satan turned around and started talking to Lucy. Lucy, honey, are you ready to go kill some people with Daddy? Lucy didn't say anything. I glanced in the rearview mirror and saw that she had removed her sunglasses and was staring out the window. Birds were dropping from the sky behind us. When we got to the location, I saw that it was an out-of-the-way house in the woods. There were a bunch of Jeeps and big black SUVs parked outside. There was an armed guard posted at the door with an assault rifle. All right, Donnie, Satan was whispering now. You wait in the car. I'm going to put the explosives by their back wheels for when they start to run. He punched me in the shoulder and handed me a video camera and some binoculars. Get some good footage for the website, all right? Satan slipped out of the car, and then he was off. carrying little metal discs that looked like mines. He moved around the compound silently, dropping mines around the wheels of the Jeeps and SUVs. When he was done, he grabbed onto a branch and climbed into a tree. I wondered, was he just going to watch? If so, then what were they going to be running from? I put the binoculars up to my eyes and watched the armed guard. That's when I saw Lucy. She looked like a ghost as she strode smoothly through the clearing. The guard seemed just as confused as I was when he spotted her, and he reached for a walkie-talkie at his waist. That's when Lucy took her sunglasses off. The man suddenly froze in place. I watched as his face twisted up with pain. The blood vessels in his neck started to turn black, bulging and bursting with the black fluid that sizzled and burned as it flowed over his skin. Lucy cocked a fist back like she was going to punch him, but instead, she threw her fist straight through his stomach, bracing herself with the other hand. She ripped at his spine with the head still attached and tossed it aside like rubbish. Men rushed out of the house, and the forest erupted with gunfire. Lucy's tiny little body shook as hundreds of bullets collided with her. She shrugged the onslaught off like rainwater, leaping from man to man and tearing them apart like paper, littering the ground with their organs and dismembered limbs. The men started to throw down their guns and jump into their cars to drive away. The ground shook and trees fell as the mines went off, sending burnt flesh and shattered glass everywhere. When it was all over, Lucy stood there among the bodies in a singed dress and silently turned to look at her father. Satan hopped down from the tree and walked over, patting her on the head. "Come on, honey," he beamed down with fatherly affection. "Let's go get some ice cream." In my last update, I introduced you to Satan's favorite daughter, Lucy 47. Some of you were curious about her background, and I admit that I was too, so I asked Satan about it, hoping to answer some of your questions. Satan told me that Lucy's mother was one of the many demons that immigrated to Earth while the war between heaven and hell was still raging in full force. Though all the demons were conscripted to fight in the war, many of them ended up deserting. Some were simply hoping to escape the conflict without having their soul obliterated. But some came to Earth to torture humans, taking advantage of the fact that heaven didn't have spare troops to dedicate to their protection. As some of you guessed, Lucy 47's mother was in fact the demonic equivalent of a Gorgon. According to Satan, mankind's mythical depictions of Gorgons, vampires, and many other monsters are actually based on the demonic creatures that plagued their ancient civilizations. The exploits of the particularly infamous demons are included in a tome called the Encyclopedia Satanica. The entry for Lucy 47's mother indicates that she came to Earth in the 734th year of the war. I'm not sure what that translates to in Earth dates exactly, but it was during the era of the ancient Greeks. According to the encyclopedia, the Greek myth of Medusa is based in large part on her murderous torment of these people. Now that your questions have been answered, I'll move on to the next part of what has been happening with Satan and I. Lucy 47 sat in the living room texting on her cell phone. Had I not witnessed her tearing apart men like tissue paper the day before, I might have mistaken her for a normal Earth teenager. "Hey, Lucy, do you know when your dad is getting back?" She didn't say anything. She just looked over her sunglasses at one of my houseplants. The plant hissed and let out a black smoke as it withered away. "Okay, I guess I'll wait." About 30 minutes later, Satan burst through the door grinning. "All right, Mel, you're gonna love this. I just got off a conference call with the management team in hell, and we've come up with a much more efficient way to do this thing." "Really?" "Absolutely, Mel. We're gonna bring a team of top murderers, salespeople to Earth and task them out to increasing our customer growth rate." "So you want to bring a bunch of monsters to Earth so they can kill people for you?" "Once again, Mel, I want to remind you that we prefer the term new customer recruitment, but that is the basic idea. Okay, so you want to pull them all through the TV like we did Lucy? Don't be ridiculous, Mel. We can't just pull any demon through the TV. I can only pull Lucy 47 through because our souls are already connected as father and daughter. Oh, so how do we get the rest of them to Earth? That's a great question, Mel, and it leads me to the next thing I want to talk with you about. The management team feels that your talents aren't really being fully utilized in your current position. Okay. Are you saying I'm getting a promotion? More like a reassignment, but you can call it a promotion if it makes you feel better, Darren. Okay, sure. Does this mean I'm not going to have to kill people anymore? Yes, Darren. Your new position will not entail any homicidal duties. All right, well, sign me up, I guess. Great, Mel. Just hold still for a moment. Satan pulled out a gun and shot me in the head. I hit the ground hard and sputtered and coughed as the sulfuric air filled my lungs. I was back in hell. A column of flame rushed down from the sky next to me, and when the smoke dissipated, I saw Satan standing there. All right, we're gonna need you to help magic some stuff up down here, Darren. Think you're up to the task? I tried to talk, but just wound up doubled over in a fist of coughing. The air quality in hell is terrible. Great, Darren, great. Our first stop is Lucy 47's mother. I'm gonna warn you, Darren. She's a total bitch, but she's my wife, so be nice or I'll have to kill you again. I managed to squeak out, Okay, Satan. The road to the Gorgon's castle was lined with spikes, each one topped with a rotting head. She's got a weird fetish for a decapitation, Darren, so be careful. Ever since some asshole cut her head off on Earth and she got sent back to hell, she just started lopping human heads off. She goes through like 40 a day. It's ridiculous. Wow, that seems like she really holds a grudge. Absolutely, Darren. She's very racist against humans, kind of like you are against octopuses. So try not to provoke her by doing any of that weird human stuff you do all the time. Wait, what do you mean by, great, we're here? As we crested a hill, I looked up to see a giant pile of skulls arranged into a pyramid. It was 90 feet tall if it was a foot. Satan shook his head. I have to apologize for my wife's crappy decor, Darren. I mean, really, like, a pile of skulls? It's a little on the nose, isn't it? Who's it supposed to scare off? Girl Scouts? Does she have a grudge against Thin Mints, too? Yeah, totally lame, I said, trying to keep my heart from beating out of my chest. As Satan knocked on the door, I suddenly remembered that I couldn't look at his wife in the eyes without dying. The door swung open, and I looked right underneath where her face was. The neckline of her dress plunged all the way to her belly button. Jesus, Darren, you meet my wife for the first time, and the first thing you do is stare at her rack? What a human, huh, honey? You can look up, I heard a soft voice say. I looked up and beheld the Gorgon. She had milky white skin and chocolate brown eyes, plump black lips, and long, sleek black hair. She was gorgeous. Wow. She smiled at me. Nice to meet you too, Darren. I'm Maddie. So, I'm not gonna turn to stone then? No, I can control it, she coughed. But it, looks like part of you has already turned to stone. What? She looked down and my eyes followed. I had a massive erection. Oh, no, that's just, sometimes when you change dimensions, the magic. You have a magic erection? No, it's just hard to think with all that blood in the wrong head, huh, Brian? Satan chimed in. Satan started laughing. Oh, this guy, huh? A typical human, right? Don't you just hate it when they do that weird human stuff? I don't think anybody would blame you if you just decapitated him right now. Maybe later, I've still got some leftovers from yesterday in the fridge. Would you like to come in? Actually, Satan, I'd rather... Don't be rude, Brian. My wife just invited you in. Maddie turned back and waved us inside. Her hips swayed back and forth as she led us up the stairs to the main hall. Are you staring at my wife's ass, Brian? What? No, I don't even... What? Maddie turned around and smiled. Give him a break, Satan. He's only human. Are you hungry, Brian? Yeah, famished, actually. Great. Humans eat other humans, right? Actually, I think I've got some snacks in the car. Don't worry about it. If you say so. I guess we can just get right down to business then. The bedroom's this way. Bedroom? Here, she said, holding the door open for me. Satan will wait outside. I looked at Satan questioningly. Well, go on, Brian. We don't have all day. All right. I went inside and stood awkwardly by the wall. Maddie came in and sat down on the bed. Is the bed okay? She asked. I guess so. Good, she said, patting the spot next to her. Come sit down. I did as I was told, sitting down on the bed next to Maddie. Listen, Maddie, I don't really know. My voice disappeared as she shrugged her shoulders, and her dress fell off, exposing her breasts. Okay, she said. Do you want me sitting up or laying down? Laying down, I guess? Okay, I guess that makes sense. I know they're kind of large, sorry, I know that makes it harder. Harder? Yeah, drawing the rune on my chest to help me get through the soul port. It must be easier with a flat surface. The what? Oh, right, the rune. Of course, let me, just get my marker. Is that it right there? No, that's my... Maddie just stared at me blankly. Oh, I'm sorry, it's your penis again. I'm just not used to seeing them that small. Are all humans like that? I don't know. I fished the marker out of my pocket and drew the rune on her chest. Great, she smiled. Can you send Satan in when you leave? I want to say goodbye before I go to Earth. Okay, sure. You may want to go downstairs. We can be pretty loud. Just help yourself to something in the fridge, okay? Yeah, all right. Satan and I pattered our way down the path that cut through the dark woods around us, though to call them woods might be a little generous. Rather than tree bark, the trees seemed to be coated in slimy black scales. The leaves looked like ragged pieces of skin and were oozing a thick black substance down to the ground below. Satan had explained that they were vampire trees. Vampires, he had told me, as undead creatures were incapable of reproducing the same way as humans. These trees were planted with a mix of both magic and vampire blood, and over the course of a 1,000-year lifetime, the little bits of ragged skin knit together to form a vampire fetus. I didn't ask him what that might look like. Satan gestured to one of the trees in front of us. Look at that one, Jed. It's a Transylvanian-Romanian hybrid. The scales are really magnificent, aren't they? Sure. I wasn't sure which tree he was referring to. They all looked exactly the same to me. You don't have to pretend to know what I'm talking about, Jed. We both know you don't know dick about vampire trees. Right. Satan picked up the pace a little. We're gonna meet an old friend of mine, said Satan. He's really sensitive about his teeth, so try not to say anything stupid. Why? What's wrong with his teeth? There's nothing wrong with them, Jed. Like they say, it's not the size of the fangs that matter. It's how you use them. Oh, so it's sort of like guys and their, you know. No, I don't know. What? Penises. Satan grinned. I did know, actually. I just wanted to make you say it. Yeah, it's pretty much the same, really. Just something girl vampires say to make you feel better. Oh, okay. The forest got thicker and thicker with vampire trees, so much so that the black fluid dripping down started running off in little currents. I couldn't even see the castle ahead when we finally reached it, the only thing visible beneath the treetops being the large wooden door and 2 torches on either side that cast an eerie light over it. Satan rapped his knuckles on the door, and it opened to reveal a waxy white vampire in a bathrobe. His hair was unkempt and brushed the tops of his shoulders, and his eyes looked like little blue ice chips. "Hey, good to see you again, Stu," said Satan. Stu grinned wide to show off a mouth full of white teeth and 2 of the biggest fangs I'd ever seen. Satan gasped. "Whoa, Jesus, Stu! It looks like you whittled down candy canes. Where did you get those?" "Fang enhancement surgery," he said smugly. "Got them from a tiger with a bad overbite." "They look great, buddy. Anyway, this here is Jed. Jed, Stu, Jed." Hi," I said stupidly. "So, what kind of name is Stu for a vampire?" "It's great, isn't it?" He smiled again, showing every single tooth in his mouth when he did. "My birth name is Dracula, but I wanted a name that really struck fear into the heart, you know? So I had it changed to Stu." All right then. Anyway, Stu turned around and beckoned us to follow him inside. "Why don't you come sit down for dinner before we do the ritual?" I didn't see how I could refuse without risking disembowelment, so I silently nodded my assent, and we made our way to the dinner table, where I dreaded seeing what a vampire's idea of dinner was. I was surprised to see the giant tables laden with all sorts of delicious-looking things. There was a steak still sizzling from the grill, giant wheels of some sort of white cheese, a few dozen bottles of wine, and some sort of soup that let off a thick smell of garlic. Satan rubbed his hands together and grinned. "So glad to see you finally given up that weirdo diet, Stu." Stu shook his head. "I haven't given it up," he replied. "This is just for you guys." "What sort of diet are you on?" I asked. Stu sighed miserably. "All vegan," he said, lifting up a little bell from the table and giving it a shake. I wondered how a vampire could be vegan, but my question was quickly answered as 2 huge vampires carried in a screaming and kicking man in a Che Guevara t-shirt. They slammed him down on the table in front of Stu, knocking over a few wine glasses in the process, and Stu bent down to feed on his neck. The screaming abruptly turned to gasping, and the man's body began to shrivel up like a raisin before finally going still. I'd grown used to seeing this sort of horror, and I was more curious than anything. "So, Stu," I said in between mouthfuls of mashed potatoes, "what's the point of a vampire going vegan?" "Regular human blood has too much cholesterol these days," he said blandly. "The full fat does taste so much better, though," he added in sadly. Most of the rest of the dinner was finished in silence as we respectively devoured our meals. I went through 2 8-ounce steaks and an absurd amount of garlic mashed potatoes, while Satan had the marinara farfalle and 3 bottles of wine, and Stu had 2 more vegans. Afterwards, I drew the same rune on Stu's chest as I had on Maddie's. She was right. Drawing the rune was much easier with a flat surface and no throbbing erection. "All done," I said when I'd finished. "Great," said Stu. "Satan and I are going to head off to the Soul Port." He eyed me with a look that was suspiciously similar to hunger. "What's your cholesterol like?" he asked, cocking an eyebrow. High," I said hurriedly. Really dangerously high." He looked unconvinced, But just then, Satan clapped him on the shoulder and whispered something in his ear that sounded a lot like hepatitis. I opened my mouth to protest, thought better of it, and waved them goodbye as they left. Thanks for listening, everybody. Hey, is this thing working? Can they hear me? Satan, what are you doing and who are you talking to? What's it look like I'm doing, Glenn? I'm breaking the fourth wall. I'm talking to my biggest fans here. Don't be rude. What? Never mind what I'm doing, Jake. It's ethereal being stuff. Okay. Anyways, thanks for listening to the series, everybody. And shoutouts to some of my biggest fans. Nikki London UK, Mysterious Mark, Amber Cochran, Mr. Freaky Story, Dr. Grimm, Enlightenment World United, Chaotix, Mahesh Srivastava, Man Dizzlefo Shizzle, Insomniac CP, A Hawaiian Shirt, Selena Burkett. Goodness gracious, Satan, how long is this list? Don't interrupt me, Barry. It's bad decorum. And anyways, I got a lot of fans, man. King of Hell, Father of Lies, and Rock and Roll and all that. Let's get back to it. Christopher Scales, Summer Strangeness, Spooky Garo, and Italia369. If I left anybody out, then my bad. I'm not omniscient like the guy upstairs. I'm an ethereal being and all, but I can only do so much. You gotta comment on the video so I can remember you. I slowly raised my hand after being chastised just a moment ago. Yeah, Barry, speak up. This isn't kindergarten. Anybody else you want to thank? I looked at him, hoping he would get the hint. I mean, I was an integral part of this whole operation. Of course. You didn't let me finish. Thanks 1,000 times over to lifeisstrangemetoo, the incredible author of this awesome story. He's got a playlist on the channel with more of his stories, and be sure to check out his Reddit page and Facebook for more of his awesome work. Links in the description down below. Now, back to the other guy. Thanks for listening, everybody. And if you like what I'm doing, leave a like and a comment down below, and hit that subscribe button for more Nightmares Nightly.